My name's Aaron Massey from MrFixItDIY.com, and today I'm here to show you how to turn an old upright piano into a speakeasy-style hidden bar. During the Prohibition era of the 1920s, illegal alcohol was a highly sought-after commodity, giving rise to famous bootlegging gangsters like Al Capone. These gangsters peddled their illegal booze through speakeasies, often inside existing clubs or businesses, so as to not raise suspicion of the police. Owners of these speakeasies went through great lengths to hide their illegal alcohol from being discovered by the police, including hiding it inside everyday objects. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to start taking this thing apart and figuring out how we're going to lay out our bar. Now that I've got it all apart, now I've got to brainstorm what I'm going to do to design it. After a bit of drinking and a lot of thinking, here's what I've come up with for the design of the bar. It'll have a built-in wine rack down below, a pull-out butcher block cutting board where the piano keys used to be, built-in wine glass storage, and a custom Edison bulb light fixture under the lid. To get started on the build, first I'm going to build the light fixture for under the lid. I'm building the fixture out of black pipe because I like the industrial feel and it's flexible for the design so that I can easily change and move things if I need to. For the sake of time in this video, I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail on the steps for building the light, but if you'd like to watch a step-by-step video of how to build this type of light and the tools you'll need to do it, click the link in the description below to watch that video on the Mr. Fix-It channel. The basics of the build are to mock up a design that you like out of the black pipe, wire the light sockets, and use a Dremel tool to make sure they seat well in the pipe, feed the wire through the pipe, and glue them in place with some 5-minute epoxy, and then wire the whole light together. Okay, the light fixture's done, and the reason why I did that first, or the reason why it's important that I got that done, is because I need to mock it up, figure out exactly where it's gonna sit and how low it's gonna hang, because that's gonna determine where my shelves and all that stuff are. So I wanted to get that knocked out of the way early on. The gas pipe is nice because it's adjustable. I can twist it and figure out which way I want the bulbs to face, whether they can be straight out when it's open or whether I want them to be facing up like that. But I'm pretty pleased with the light fixture. So close. Wow. We're gonna keep moving. That's one of about 1,000 things that needs to be done on this. Next, I'm attaching a locking hinge to support and lock the lid in place in the upright position when it's being used as a bar. From there, I move on to installing the drawer tracks for the pull-out cutting board. I'm cutting some scrap 4x4 to attach inside the piano to act as a backing plate to attach the tracks to. I'm attaching the 4x4s with some decking screws to the piano and then installing the tracks. I make sure that the tracks can slide back all the way and that everything can be closed up so the piano appears normal when it's not in use. Next, I start mocking up the hinges for the front face of the piano. At first I thought I would keep the existing flip-up style of the face, but since it would get in the way, I thought maybe having it removable would be the best option. But after a little more thinking, I decided having it open in the middle and out swinging would be the best way to get it out of the way and still keep it attached to the piano so you can close it easily. It requires cutting the front face down the middle and turning it into 2 pieces, which is a little sketchy because I can't replace it if I screw it up, but it worked out just fine. I mock up the 2 pieces in place and attach the hinges with some screws in the pre-drilled holes. The music rest has to be removed on the front of the piano in order for the new doors to be able to swing out. So I used an oscillating tool to remove it. Now the doors can freely swing open and close whenever you need to. There's a small gap the width of the blade in the front of the doors, so I cut a piece of the music rest and used it as a piece of trim to cover the gap on one of the doors. From there, I attached a piece of scrap wood I previously removed from the piano to act as a backer that I could attach some magnetic cabinet latches to keep the doors closed. I start laying out the measurements for the top shelf of the bar. I know how low it needs to go because I've already attached the light fixture to see how low it hangs from the lid. Once I have it laid out, I attach a shelf support with some screws and check it for level. I do the same thing on the other side, cut a piece of wood to fit, and then install it. From there, I move on to building the wine glass racks Originally I was gonna buy a couple of these, but I didn't want to spend the money, so I figured I'd just make them out of some scrap wood. I mock up where the glasses are gonna sit on the underside of the shelf, cut some strips of wood to act as the side rails for the tracks, and snap a few lines with my chalk line to make sure everything stays lined up. Then I glue the rails in place and attach them with some brad nails. Then I cut a piece of old hardwood flooring that I could use as the track for the glasses to slide on. I reinstalled the shelf and then test the tracks with a few wine glasses. Next I can move on to building the wine rack for the bottom of the piano. I have a bunch of red oak left over, so I decided to make the wine rack out of that. I ripped strips on the table saw and set up a stop block on my chop saw to cut a bunch of pieces the same length. Then I laid them out to figure out the overall width of the rack and the spacing for each piece. I temporarily attach each piece with a brad nail to make a template for the first shelf. I'll come back in later and glue each piece once I've solidified the design. I rip a bunch more pieces of oak to create the pieces for the remaining shelves and then put them together. Next I lay out a couple wider pieces of oak to serve as the legs for the rack. Once I determine the height I want between the shelves, I glue and nail the shelves in place. Then I dry fit the rack in place to make sure it fits under the piano and put the front casing of the piano back on. The original opening for the bottom piece isn't large enough to access the whole rack, so I have to widen the opening. I make some marks and cut out the piece. I save this piece though because later on I'll glue it back together with the original door to create a new larger door to hide the wine rack. Next I'm going to be working on the pull-out tray that goes where the keys used to be. I thought that it'd be good to have a cutting board in case you need to cut some fruit or something for cocktails or hors d'oeuvres or whatever. I'm going to be using a combination of maple and walnut. I had a little bit of each left over from a previous project, but because of the size of this cutting board, I had to pick up a little bit more maple. Because it's a piano bar, I thought it'd be fun to give it kind of an abstract piano key kind of look. It's not going to be exactly like piano keys, but I thought if I use the maple and offset it with pieces of walnut here and there, it'll kind of look like piano keys. And then I'm just going to glue them all together into one big cutting board. Once the glue sets up, I can scrape off the excess, give it a nice little sand, and then I'll come back and I'll finish the whole thing with a couple coats of cutting board oil before I install it on the piano. Now that I have pretty much everything built and mocked up, now I have to take it all back apart, sand it, and prep it for finishing. It's going to take a lot of work, but I can't wait to see what this thing's going to look like when it's finished.
So much sanding.
After 3 days and nights of sanding, staining, and polyurethaning, I'm finally finished. It sucked. It sucked real bad. I'm not gonna lie about it. But that means we're almost finished. Now I can focus on putting everything back together, getting the pieces together, adding the finishing touches, and getting this thing ready to show, and I cannot wait for you guys to check it out. Well guys, here it is, the finished speakeasy style hidden bar. I've got to say this is one of the most challenging, time-consuming, and labor-intensive projects that I've ever built, and I'm so thrilled to be done with it. As you can see, I've got the 48-inch pull-out cutting board. We've got under-cabinet LED lighting accenting the wine glasses. We've got a custom-made light fixture, shelving, storage. We've got a wine rack down below, and it all closes up to look like a normal piano when it's all said and done. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please click that like button, leave me a comment down below, let me know. Also, if you want to check out more Mr. Fix-It builds, check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/MrFixit. And until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later. Cheers. My name's Aaron Massey from MrFixItDIY.com, and today I'm here to show you how to build this rustic timber framed mirror out of an old garage sale mirror I picked up for 25 bucks. To cut these timbers, I'm gonna need to use a chainsaw. And if I'm gonna be using a chainsaw, you bet your sweet ass I'm gonna look the part.